And welcome back. It's time for our Capitol Report with CapitolBeatOK.com's Pat McGuigan. Pat, you have been outspoken. You've written quite a bit about crime and punishment issues, not only in Oklahoma, but nationally. With incarceration rates climbing fairly dramatically in Oklahoma, there are those who are looking to address this, some outside groups even looking to find a solution, and they're turning to a reform model from Texas. Why is that?
Yeah, the Oklahoma is not a perfect mirror of what's gone on in Texas for the last 6 years, but we've made a start in the last 2 legislative sessions. Why? Well, people joke in Oklahoma all the time about paying attention to darn near everything that goes on in Texas. Very quickly, in Texas, violent crime went down in 2011, 9.3%. Property crime went down to 8.3%, and yet the incarceration rate actually eased 1.45%. That's a lot of numbers, but if you stop and think about that, it's counterintuitive to some of the traditional ideas. Well, the reason it's not really counterintuitive, because what they're doing in Texas is applying a lot of very effective programs short of incarceration for nonviolent crimes. Oklahoma's now beginning to try to mirror this. It's going to be very important to stick with the plan. It's very challenging, but the Texas Public Policy Foundation, sort of the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs of Texas, has an initiative called Right on Crime. Could also be described as Smart on Crime. Jerry Madden, a conservative Republican legislator, helped make the case for reforms that superficially might sound liberal, but are actually very commonsensical. Brought a lot of people together here in Oklahoma thanks to Chris Steele's leadership in the House. Council of State Governments helped fund the study. So we're at the front end of an era that's going to be challenging, and it's going to be very important to stick with the incremental steps so that 6 years from now we'll have results like Texas.
Well, I assume there are opponents to this view. What is the counter view?
The counter view is, not to be simplistic, tough on crime, a willingness to accept bad conditions or challenging conditions in your prison facilities, a willingness to accept the data that recidivism remains pretty high, the status quo, kind of a comfort level with longer terms, and an increasing, mounting number of things defined as felonies. And finally, to give the absolute due to this point of view, incapacitation is a positive, especially if you're dealing with habitual criminals. You know, you just take them out of circulation for a decade or half a decade or more, and that's a social good. So that gives a thumbnail summary of people that are very wary of these reforms.
Okay, so when the legislature reconvenes next year, do they take this issue up? What do they do?
It's hard to say. I will say it's really fundamentally going to be up to the new Speaker, T.W. Shannon presumably, and to President Pro Tem Bingman. And when I say that, it's very important to remember you've got Oklahoma Public Employees Association wariness about some of this, and you've got private prison facilities, both maximum security and less so, that are worried about losing market share if the state keeps its share, if in fact the numbers go down. Here's the thing, the best this is going to do realistically in the near term is flatten the rate somewhat. So there's still going to be plenty of work for everybody involved in the correction system, and this is what public policy should do. It should respond to good policy ideas. It should look at the future and say, how do we do a better job? That's what Oklahoma's at the front end of.
All right, let's turn to the national scene and specifically to the presidential race. There continues to be a lot of talk about the president's health care plan and about the recent Supreme Court decision. Is this a good thing for Romney, or should he kind of quietly pivot back to the economy?
I think it is the economy. You know, that's a very interesting question. It's the economy stupid. Stupid was the famous or infamous expression of Clinton's political guys back in the 1992 campaign. It still is the economy. Having said that, there's a total of 20 tax changes, not just the individual mandate, now defined as a tax. It's a total of 20 tax changes in the president's health care proposal. The system as we have it is laced with inefficiency, inconsistency, millions of uninsured people, a lack of choice. What Romney is putting forward is conservative-oriented proposals, market-oriented proposals to address each of those areas. I think he should stick with it while keeping in mind that this is a very significant part of that broader picture of the entire economy. So it is the economy, and healthcare is part of that, a big part.
Yes. All right, well, you can read more about these and other topics at CapitolBeatOK.com. For Pat McGuigan, I'm Alex Cameron. Have a great day.